Hello, 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 and welcome to the Hope for Prisoners Tuesday night huddle up. I'm John Pond, the founder and CEO of Hope for Prisoners, and I am so grateful that you guys have joined us here tonight. You guys are in for an absolute treat with our special guest, my friend and brother Dave Durocher from the Other Side Academy, joining us here tonight. I want to say hello to everyone here in the room. Can you guys give yourselves a big round of applause for joining us? No, you're supposed to be screaming and all that good stuff. Want to give a big shout out to our friends out in Nevada Department of Corrections. We're streaming live into Casa Grande, Southern Desert Correctional Center, and Gene Conservation Camp. Can we give them a big, gigantic round of applause? Thank you guys for joining us tonight. Special shout outs to our friends and family over in the Clark County Detention Center, the City of Las Vegas Detention Center, and our family and friends watching from around the world on the Hope for Prisoners Facebook Live page. Can we give them a hand too? What happened to the streaming and woo, 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 and all that good stuff? Hey, so we got a whole bunch of ground to cover, and I don't want to take up too much time of Dave Durocher's time because I tell you guys are in for the absolute treat. I want to encourage you guys to make sure you take some notes because Dave Durocher is going to drop some nuggets in here that we're going to have some Q&A afterwards, and he loves fielding questions, or I'd love to hear the comments. So we want to open it up in the same Hope for Prisoners fashion that we always do and see if anybody in this room, online, Casa Grande, Gene Conservation Camp, or Southern Desert Correctional Facility, any testimony that you'd like to share with us just to get everything up and running. Maybe it's something God has done magnificent in your life. May have gotten a new job. Come on up. I saw you slip your hand up. Why you don't? Give her a hand for coming up. Woo! Come on, step up. Look over there in the camera. Tell us your name and what is that you'd like to share with us tonight.
Hey, so my name is Ashley. I've been in Hope for Prisoners for the past month. I've been sober 17 weeks.
Woo! Give a hand for that. 17 weeks.
I just want to tell my testimony. I want to thank you. Like, I really appreciate everything you do for each and every one of us. And I went to court today, and due to completing this program, my case is closed. So.
Oh, give me a high five for that. Awesome, awesome, awesome. That is amazing. No, thank you, thank you, thank you. That is amazing. Any other testimonies? Anyone would like to share? Going once, Casa Grande, going twice, Gene Camp, Southern Desert. All right, come on, make your way up, man. Make your way up. Well, I know Dave Durocher really enjoys when people celebrate them being clean and sober. Tell us your name. Look in the camera over there. Tell us your name. What is that question or comment you might have?
My name is AJ Goddery, and I'm 94 days clean today.
Oh, give me a hand for that. That's what I'm talking about.
Thank you. And I start welding school on June 3rd, and I've been working for the last 3 weeks now for traffic control. So yeah. So welding's the end game, man, and thank you for that.
Man, you're welcome, man. Give him a hand for that, man. That is awesome. Going to welding school at the Las Vegas Institute of Welding. Any other questions? Because I'm ready to dive right into this. How you doing, man? You doing good? All right. Going once, going twice, gone. Before I read this resume of my dear friend Dave Durocher, the ultimate comeback kid, and you're going to know why I call it that. Let's go ahead and open up in a word of prayer. Father, we just come before you this evening in the name of Jesus, God. We thank you for huddling up with us on this evening. I thank you for the men and women that are here in this room, those who are in the institutions, and those who are watching on Facebook Live. Father, we thank you for drawing them to us. God, we pray for our speaker this evening, God. We ask you to illuminate every gift, talent, and ability on the inside of my friend Dave Durocher, God, and let everything that you worked in him just come out and be on the full display. We love you, we worship you, and we pray you this prayer in the matchless name of your son, Jesus Christ. And in Jesus' name we say amen. Now, I want you to look at each other and as loud as you can say, get ready. Get ready. Is that as loud as you can? Get ready. Say, this is going to be good. We have an awesome speaker here tonight. We're talking about my dear friend, Dave Durocher of the Other Side Academy. And I'm going to read his resume. Dave Durocher was arrested for the first time at age 13. By the time he was 38 years old, he had been to prison 4 times for a total of 15 years. Dave was arrested yet again, and this time he was facing 22 22-year prison sentence. And what the judge called the chance of a lifetime, he afforded Dave the opportunity to go to Delancey Street instead of going to prison, but reminded Dave in no uncertain terms that if he didn't complete his commitment at Delancey Street, he would spend the rest of his life in prison. Not only did Dave complete his initial 2-year commitment, but he also stayed for a total of 8 years and became the executive director of Delancey Street, Los Angeles facility for 5 of those years, overseeing 250 residents and a multitude of vocational training businesses that funded the operation and provided the training ground for residents to learn how to live constructive and meaningful lives. Dave oversaw a 300% increase in revenue during his tenure over the facility. Dave is tenacious, interpersonally skilled, a good manager, and an inspiring and powerful public speaker, as you will see here in just a little bit. He had helped countless others regain their dignity and their lives before he moved on to enjoy his own success as the person he had become. Dave helped launch the Other Side Academy in 2015 and is currently the executive director in Salt Lake City. The Other Side Academy is a 2-year life skills academy similar to Delancey Street, where men and women can come to learn about their honesty, accountability, integrity, hard work, and self-respect. Under Dave's management, the Other Side Academy has grown to over $11 million in revenues and donations for 2018 and has overseen the growth of the student population to over 90 students. It gives me an honor and a privilege to welcome you to the Hope for Prisoners Tuesday Night Huddle Up, my dear friend, Dave Durocher. Dave, welcome to the...
John, can you hear me?
You can, yes, we can
Yes.
hear you.
Awesome. Can you guys all hear me now?
It's all good.
Oh, wonderful. It's good to be here with you, John. And we got to see each other last week, and it's always good to see you, whether it's in person or whether it's virtually. So thank you for the invite to be able to share a message of hope with everybody, with hope for prisoners and those that are incarcerated in the state of Nevada and across the country. So thank you. John, you there?
All right, you're good.
We're good now, right? Okay, wonderful.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, you guys, my name is Dave Durocher, Executive Director with the Other Side Academy, but make no mistake about it, I haven't always been the Executive Director with the Other Side Academy, as John mentioned. I had a very colorful background. John, I keep losing you on the screen, so can you guys still hear me even though I can't see you?
Yeah, we can still hear you and see you.
Okay, wonderful. So I haven't always been the executive director. I had a very colorful background, and I want to give you a little bit of that background to give you somewhat of a foundation so you understand who I once was juxtaposed against who I am today and how I got from where I once was to where I'm at today. So, not unlike you guys, my story's not that different, right? I grew up in a household where, dad was a drinker, and he didn't sit me down and teach me how to drink, but I learned at home watching my dad. Now, he didn't realize that's what was happening, but, back in the 70s when his friends would come over and I would just run over to the refrigerator, grab a Budweiser, pop the can, and take the first drink, and then just kind of hang out with all the older guys, during that the time that everybody was there. And then at the end of that soiree, I'd go pick up all the cans and I'd take the last drink. I just kind of started drinking alcohol at a very young age. Things continued to progress and continued to progress. And I was the kind of kid that would come home from school, and when I would get into my dad's alcohol decanter and I would take some alcohol and I'd drink it. I replaced it with water because he would never notice, right? I was that kind of a kid. And for some of you, you may remember Dennis the Menace, right? He was just a troubled young kid. That was me. Before I ever really even started doing drugs, I was doing time in my own home. I was the kind of kid, I was 6 years old when the mailman would be coming around during the holidays, particularly Christmas, dropping off mail in the mailboxes. And when he was off of our street, I'd go back to those mailboxes and I'd take all the Christmas cards because I knew inside those Christmas cards was cash. That's the kind of kid I was. I would wait for the neighbors to leave, and I would literally go through their side gate into their backyard if their sliding glass door was open. And this was back in the 70s. People didn't lock much up back then. And I would go into their houses and I would ransack their houses at a very, very young age. I was the kid that would steal money out of mom's purse. And I remember one time in particular that's kind of etched on my brain where I took some money and I put it in my shoe. And I remember my mom realized the money was missing. She came and she found me and she says, "Dave, did you steal my money?" I said, "No, Mom." She said, "Empty your pockets." So I did, and there was nothing there. And I was all proud of myself, right? I got away with it. She said, "Take your shoes off." I took my shoes off and there was the money. Now, just to give you some idea of the kind of kid that I was, right? And my mom and dad are still married today after 60 years. They've been married for 60 years in spite of my best efforts to try to destroy that marriage. But as my addiction and my behavior continued throughout my adolescence, at around age 11 or 12 years old, I smoked my first joint. Started smoking pot. And then my freshman year in high school, I did my first line of cocaine. Now, coke was expensive. I didn't have a job. I'm a kid. I literally, in order to support my habit, stole everything you could possibly imagine. I became a hardcore thief because I had become a drug addict. I couldn't snort enough coke to keep me happy. Remember, I'm a teenager in high school. Could you imagine trying to navigate your high school years? And some of you may be able to imagine because some of you have probably been down that same path. So I'm doing a lot of coke. I'm the kind of kid that would literally, and I'm going to pull out I don't have my chapstick on me, but I would go to school and I'd have a vial of cocaine in my pocket, right? I usually have chapstick and I use that as the vial, but I'd have a vial of cocaine in my pocket and I'd sit in the back of the class. And when the teacher was up front, I'd take that vial of cocaine and I'd pour it between the pages of whatever book I had in front of me, whether it was history class or math class. Then I'd pull the Bic pen apart and I'd use the cartridge as the straw. And when the teacher wasn't looking, I would just bend over and snort coke in class. Now, I was breaking into people's homes to support my habit. I got into my dad's wallet, got the safe combination, got into his safe, and stole thousands of dollars before he realized what had happened. I went, one of my first arrests, I'm on a bike going through a drive-through at a bank. I had forged one of my dad's checks, trying to cash the check at a drive-through on a bicycle at a bank as a kid. That's how bad things got for me. As I continued to navigate my high school years, I'm partying, I'm doing coke, I'm drinking, I'm smoking, I'm having sex, I'm getting women pregnant. We're having to have abortions because we're too young. All of these things are going on and my life is spiraling out of control, but I don't realize it because I'm too young and I don't have the emotional maturity or the intellectual capacity to realize where things are headed. My parents are trying to help, teachers are trying to help, but I'm not listening to anybody because I didn't have a problem. They did, right? I'm not a drug addict. I don't have a needle in my arm. I'm just partying. That's kind of how things went for me for quite some time. And when I eventually graduated from high school because it wasn't difficult to do, well, let me digress. I even had my first son, who's 39 years old now, while I was in high school. Got her pregnant as a junior and then had a child when I was in my senior year. Do I sound like somebody as I'm telling you this story that's ready to be ready to be a parent? And the problem today is so many drug addicts do this. We're doing drugs, we're partying, we're living that lifestyle, and we're having kids. But just because we have kids does not make us a parent. I have 3 boys. I was never a dad. I was literally, and I say this somewhat tongue in cheek, but I was a sperm donor getting women pregnant and then kicking them down the street for other people to raise because I was incapable of it. And what I've realized over the years is this, and it is true across the board. You're either a drug addict or a parent. I was a drug addict and a criminal. You can't be a drug addict and a criminal and be a parent because you're going to be really bad at one of them. So it took me a while to realize that, but I was never a parent anyway. I had those kids and kicked them down the street, and the mothers who had them or the grandparents had to raise them because I was still in the lifestyle. So I graduated from high school and I graduated from cocaine to meth. That's when I first started doing meth. And my means to an end changed. My ends to a means changed. I started dealing drugs, but I never set out to be a drug dealer. That was never my intention. I didn't wake up one morning and go, you know what? I'm going to be a drug dealer. I would buy some and sell some. buy some and sell some, buy a 16th, sell some quarter grams, buy an 8-ball, sell a 16th, buy a quarter ounce. You get it, right? Buying more and selling more. And I did not realize that I had an entrepreneurial gene and that I was going to end up being good at doing something really bad. I was buying larger amounts, selling larger amounts. And now I realize I can make a living doing this. So along with the drugs came guns, and along with the drugs and the guns came arrests. Got arrested a couple of times for petty stuff prior to the big arrest, but my big arrest was a large amount of meth, 2 loaded firearms. And I'll be honest with you, in one of the firearms, I had black talons, which are cop killers, and they did not take that lightly, and they beat me senseless when they found the ammunition in that gun. And needless to say, I went to prison for the first time, and my first prison term was 2 years. I go to prison, I get out, I'm out for 59 days, I get busted again, sales, transportation, large amount, I get 5 years. Go to prison, get out, stay out for 60 days, go back to prison for 6 years. Get out, stay out for 4 months, go back to prison for 10 years. So it was a 2-year prison term, a 5-year prison term, a 6-year prison term, then a 10-year prison term. Back to back to back with no time out. And for all of you who are listening, it's safe to say the day I got out of prison, I was on my way back. And I'm doing time in the state of California. Some of you who are on this call may be familiar with the prison system there, but I refer to as California prisons as high school with knives. Blacks, whites, Bloods, Crips, Sureños, Norteños, white power, skinheads, and we're all basically stabbing each other over a yard that doesn't belong to us, literally just being kids on a yard hurting people. It was absolute insanity in the state of California. And when I got there, I don't know, there was never hope for prisoners in California prisons. I wasn't seeking out programs while I was in prison. They may have existed, but I'm not aware of them. I immediately went in and started politicking. And then I started to buy into the prison system. And as I was buying into the prison system and buying into the politics, I got deeper and deeper into that lifestyle. Like many of you, completely covered in ink, all prison ink, and got involved in all of that and didn't realize that I was buying into a bold-faced lie. I cannot begin to tell you how bad life started to get, particularly on the inside. But even when I got out, things got so bad that when I got out, I couldn't function on the outside. I did not know how to. I was out of the workforce for decades. It's almost like when I got busted, there was a relief that I'm going back to someplace where I'm comfortable. How tragic is that when you start to feel like prison is your home? I refer to it as hedonistic adaptation. I started to adapt to the very bottom of the food chain, if you will. You can't go any lower than jail or prison. I mean, really, where else can you go? You're either dead. The next level is jail or prison. But the problem with me is I started to buy in and drink my own Kool-Aid. I was buying my own lies. I started to make a name for myself while I was incarcerated. And if you make a name for yourself while you're incarcerated, how do you do that? I called it having a reputation. But how did I build the reputation? By doing the wrong thing. How do you build character? By doing the right thing. So as I continue to go from prison term to prison term to prison term, doing more and more bad and earning my stripes and earning more ink, I think I'm about something. The only thing I was about was being a coward. And what I mean by that is if I'm not willing to go on the street, get a job, hold that job, maybe 2, support my family, support my kids. If I'm going to prison so I can play like a boy plays, I'm a coward. I'm afraid to do what real men do on the street. And I think what I'm doing in prison makes me a man. I was wrong. So if you're buying into the politics in prison, for those of you who are incarcerated right now, you are buying into a bold-faced lie. Men don't go to prison. Boys do. Men are on the street, working, sometimes 2 jobs, sometimes 3, whatever it takes to support their family, to raise their children. I was not doing that. And I'll refer to me as the example. And, and it's one thing to go to prison once, get out and get your life straight. But I was going to prison over and over and over again. And I knew what I was doing was wrong. I knew what I was doing was going to get me back in prison again. And I was doing it anyway. So I became a parasite in my community, tearing at the very fabric of it. I added no value whatsoever to anybody's lives that I came into contact with. You know, and as I say this, people sometimes go, Dave, my goodness, you are hard on yourself. No, I'm not hard on myself. The difference between me and many people is I know how to hug the cactus. I don't minimize the decisions I made. I don't minimize the impact I had on my family. I don't minimize the fact that I was a deadbeat. I wasn't even a dad, a deadbeat biological father that never raised his kids. I don't minimize those things. I maximize them. And that's important because I deal with a lot of people in this space and they want to minimize who they became and they don't want to maximize it. So they don't understand how to go back and fix it because there isn't a problem because they're minimizing it. I don't do that. I hug the cactus and I realize I became a liar, a cheater, a thief, a manipulator, a self-centered, self-seeking, drug dealing, gun running, out of control criminal for many, many years. And to me today, it is repulsive. And it makes me sick to think that I did that at one time in my life, because now I'm 18 and a half years removed from that lifestyle, and my life has never been better. And I'm kind of an extremist. So I went from that extreme to the one I'm at now. But I think what gave me the opportunity to finally turn my life around was I got tired of my own shit. And after that 4th prison term, I got busted again. This time I'm in Huntington Beach, California. I'm at a house. I'm doing what I articulated earlier with drugs. There's a helicopter hovering really, really high above the, in the city. I can see it through the window. And I don't know if John has ever showed you guys my TED talk, but it kind of talks about that whole incident that day. That helicopter is just hovering there. And about an hour later, I'm getting ready to leave and it's still way up there. It's not floating around the city. It's just sitting up there, way, way up there. I leave, I get in my car, I'm getting ready to go. And as I take off, the cops were everywhere. Huntington Beach PD, Fountain Valley, Garden Grove, and parole. And I had told everybody that I'm never going back to prison. That if I ever get red lighted again, I'm not stopping. They're going to have to take me out. So I took the cops on a high-speed chase. I had wanton disregard for public safety. I was going through red lights. I was up on sidewalks. I was running over whatever I had to run over. I was displacing vehicles, pushing them out of the way to get through the next intersection. I'm trying to get to a bridge with water that's running underneath it to throw everything out the window. And if they find it, they got to prove that's mine. That's how crazy my thinking was. That helicopter had come all the way down. The spotlight of that helicopter is following my vehicle, so it's shining inside the window. The cacophony of sound between the sirens to pull over, the commands to pull over. It was a very hectic and a very harried, short, high-speed chase. I get to an intersection. There's some cops that have kind of blocked the intersection as the rest of them are following behind me. And I had a decision to make. Do I stop or do I go through that roadblock and use my car as a battering ram? And I opted for B. I wanted them to shoot me. So I used my car. I displaced the 2 cop cars in front of me. And as I made the left-hand turn, the cop closest to me did the pursuit intervention technique, otherwise known as the pit maneuver, spun me out of control up on an embankment, left the car completely undrivable. They pulled me out at gunpoint. They gave me one of the worst beatings I've ever taken. And I'll be honest with you, I had it coming. If I was law enforcement dealing with me at that moment, I'd have done the same thing. I deserved that beating. I risked that helicopter's life. I risked the cops. I risked the general public that was on the streets when I'm on that high-speed chase. Anybody could have been killed. Did I care at that time? No. If I did, I wouldn't have done it. So I know darn well that beating I took, I had coming. Needless to say, I'm arrested. I'm going to court. And my first offer was 29 years. Now, I'm doing the math. I did a 2-year term, a 5-year term, a 6-year term, a 10-year term. I'm 38 now. I've done a big chunk of my adult life in prison. Now I'm getting ready to go back for the rest of my life. As I fought my case for a long time in the county jail, some of those ancillary charges had fallen off, and it went from 29 down to 22. And for a long time, Judge Richard Pacheco out of Orange County, California, was resolute that I was going to get 22 years. Now, I don't know if he could have done this, but he said, Mr. Durocher, whether you plead out or whether you go to trial, you're getting your max exposure. You're getting 22 years. So I continued to fight my case in the hopes that maybe I could soften his heart and maybe he'd bring it down to something like 15 years. And had he done that, we wouldn't be on this call today. Had he given me anything less than 22 years, I'd have taken the deal. I'd have went to prison, I'd have gotten out, and I'd have been right back into the same behavior. But he didn't, and I am grateful for that. He stuck firm to 22 years. So I don't know if you guys are aware of an organization called Delancey Street. It's been around since 1971. It's a 2-year residential life skills and vocational training school for people like myself. It's the only place that a judge would send someone like me in lieu of a lengthy prison sentence. So I wrote Delancey Street a letter. Explained my situation, told them I wanted an interview. They came to Orange County Jail. They interviewed me. A week later, I got a letter of acceptance. They accepted me. I go to court. I take that letter with me. I present it to my public defender, and he presents it to the judge, and the judge basically laughed, and he didn't say hell no, but he might as well have. He said, Mr. Durocher, you are not Delancey Street material. I will never send you to Delancey Street. You're getting 22 years. Get out of my courtroom. So I continued to fight my case. I'm playing the game. I'm firing public defenders. I'm articulating reasons why the public defender is ineffective. I'm staying in the county jail so I can get the women to come visit me because I'm manipulating all of them, writing them letters, telling them I love them, getting them to put money on my books. I'm playing the game. And some of you on this call are going, oh my goodness, I'm doing that now. I'm rating 6 different girls, telling them all the same thing. I was, again, even without the drugs, being a little lying, thieving, manipulating scumbag. That's who I had become at that time in my life. So after a while, I'm going to court. They're starting to set the pretrial date, and I decide to take a chance. I wrote Judge Pacheco a letter on legal pad, front and back, and I told him my life story. And I said, Your Honor, I've been to prison 4 times already. It didn't work. Not that it's designed to. That's not your fault. That's my fault. Delancey Street interviewed me. They think they can accept me. Why don't you give me a shot? If you send me to Delancey Street and I get kicked out or I split, you can lock me up for the rest of my life. If not, Your Honor, the next time you see me, it's because I'm coming back to say thank you. Then I pled guilty on paper to all of my charges, the high-speed chase, possession, weapons, everything. I pled guilty to everything. I took a major chance, ladies and gentlemen, right? Pleading guilty on paper. 6 weeks later, I went to court. I didn't know what to expect. I'm in a tiny phone booth kind of cage, and I don't know how they do it in Nevada. I've only been arrested once in Nevada. But when I was going to court, I'm in a tiny little cage, ankle irons, waist irons, and handcuffs. And Judge Pacheco said, Mr. Durocher, against my better judgment, I'm going to give you the opportunity of a lifetime. I'm going to let you go to Delancey Street, but you're going to plead guilty in my courtroom to all of your charges, and you're going to sign a deal for 22 years. I will suspend that sentence upon completion of Delancey Street. And I had to go and stay for 2 years. I couldn't believe the judge was going to acquiesce and give me the chance to get out of jail to go to Delancey Street. Now, Delancey Street is widely known as the gold standard in this country as it relates to an organization that can help people like me. Because if you haven't paid attention, drugs are not my problem. My behaviors are my problem. I never got arrested for being high. I got arrested because I was a criminal. I got arrested for breaking the law. I got arrested because I compromised and did things I knew was wrong, and I did them anyway. I say this all the time, and I'll say it now. I'm grateful for every second, every minute, every hour, day, week, month, and year I did behind bars, because it literally saved my life. When Delancey Street accepted me and the judge finally let me go, make no mistake about it, I didn't write Delancey Street because I wanted to change. I wrote Delancey Street because I wanted a change of address. I knew it was the only place that could possibly get me out of that particular predicament, and it did. When I got to Delancey Street, they did their job. After 18 months, I realized that I started to feel good about myself, right? Because it's a 2-year residential re-education facility. Started to feel good about myself, and I asked to stay a 3rd year. As I asked to stay a 3rd year, I knew I needed more time. And that's the beauty of that model. There's no government money. You don't have to leave when the funding runs out. I got to stay as long as I needed to. I stayed 8.5 years in a 2-year program. Let that sink in. Many of you have been to programs before, 30, 60, 90-day model. And we're literally waiting at the door on day 30, day 60, or 90 to run back out to the very thing that chased us in to begin with. I stayed in a 2-year program for 8.5 years. It was hands down the best decision I ever made, because what I did is I made an investment in me. And if you make an investment in something, On the back end, you get dividends. On the back end, I got my life back. I was nowhere near ready to reintegrate back into the community at 2 years. I needed additional time. Now, granted, I didn't need 8.5 years. At about 3.5 years, Mimi Silbert, the president of Delancey Street, came down from San Francisco to the Los Angeles facility where I was at, and she asked me if I would manage that facility. So for the last 5 years that I was in Delancey Street, I managed a facility with 250, give or take 10%, 250 residents living on property. I mentioned earlier, Bloods, Crips, Sureños, Norteños, White Power, Skinheads, we all lived cohesively under the same roof. We took no money from the government. We had about 15 different businesses that we operated that generated all of the revenue. So here's this guy that spent his life going in and out of jail and prison as a dope fiend and as a criminal, now running a multi-million-dollar organization, saving lives. Staying 8.5 years was the best decision I ever made in my entire life, save for going. Going was the best decision. Then staying that long was an even better decision, up until the time that I graduated. At 46 years old, I graduated from Delancey Street. I wanted to go start my life and take what I had learned in Delancey Street and go apply it in the real world. Got a great job in Southern California, got my CDL, was hauling heavy equipment, making prevailing wages, went up to the oil fields in the Dakotas, up in the Bakken. Some of you may be familiar with that, making what I refer to as stupid money, $15,000, $17,000 a month in the oil fields, putting it all in the bank, and the cops can't take it this time because I made it legally. And I realized a couple things, that making money is fun. I don't think anybody listening to this right now can deny that, but saving lives is rewarding. Although I was having an affair with my checkbook when I was making that kind of money legally, there was a hole in my heart. I missed Delancey Street. I missed helping people get from where I once was to where I had gotten. Did I love going to work every day? Absolutely. But I hated my job. It didn't have any meaning. It didn't give me that intrinsic sense of satisfaction. It didn't add value, in my opinion. It was a good job. It paid well. But I love helping people like you and like me get to a better place in their life. So I came back to Southern California, and then a God shot happened. Our chairman of the board and our CEO, Tim Stay and Joseph Grenny, wanted to start a replication of Delancey Street here in Utah. And through a very serendipitous chain of events, reached out and were able to locate me, and we met, and they asked if I would come on board back in 2015 to help start the Other Side Academy. So what is the Other Side Academy? The Other Side Academy now is 30 months long, residential. Now think about it. That's a long time, right? When you juxtapose that against most treatment facilities that are 30, 60, or 90 days, but here's why it's important. You guys, there is no science anywhere in the world that you'll find that says 30, 60, or 90 days is the optimal time for someone like us to get help. It just isn't true. What you will find is the dosage effect. The longer you're in treatment, the better your odds of success. But the government won't fund long-term treatment facilities. They don't exist. They did 50 years ago, but then the government got involved and destroyed the model. Now it's 30, 60, or 90 days. And you have to leave the day the funding runs out. If every single person listening to this call right now is a drug addict, every single one of us would be ready on a different day. Nobody is ready at the same time. All of us need as long as we need to get to a better place in our life so that we can reintegrate back into the community as productive members. So at the Other Side Academy, we afford you that opportunity. We're a minimum 30 months long. We are completely free. If you walk through our front door and you take a seat on our bench and you ask for an interview and we interview you and we accept you, you start that moment. You need nothing. Think about how wonderful that is. If you write us a letter from the county jail, pre-sentence, you write a letter like I did. You're in the county jail, you're fighting your case, you're looking at some county time, maybe you're looking at some state time, maybe you're looking at some federal time. You write us a letter and we interview you and we accept you. You get a letter of acceptance, just like I did, and you can take it to your prosecutor, your public defender, and ultimately your judge has discretion. Then they can sentence you to the Other Side Academy in lieu of however much time they deem necessary. The beautiful thing about the Other Side Academy is free, long, structured, and incredibly effective. The magic is there's no doctors, no counselors, no therapists. It is peer run and peer driven. We don't take any money from the government, city, county, state, federal government, rich mommy and daddy, Medicaid, nothing. We keep the government as far away from this as we possibly can, because if the government knew how to solve this problem, they never would have created it. We do it ourselves, so the government has absolutely nothing to do with us. You want to know how effective it is? We started in 2015. As John was reading my bio, he mentioned 90 students. Right now, I have 130 students living on property, 15 graduates in the graduate housing, and 25 staff members. I've got about 170 people living on property. Right now, as I'm sitting in this apartment, this is part of our property. I live on property. The beauty of our model is, of my 25 staff members, we don't punch in at 8 o'clock in the morning and punch out at 5 in the evening. If you're going to work at the Other Side Academy, you're going to live here. We all live on property. We are with our students 24/7, raising them through this process. The other important thing is this: we don't even talk about drugs. Drugs are not the problem. I highly doubt that there's anybody on this call right now that is in jail because they got high, maybe on a violation because you gave it dirty. But by and large, most people don't get arrested and go to prison because they get high. They get arrested and they go to prison because they're committing crimes to support their habit. What happened with me, and I want to say this generally speaking, but it probably applies to more of you than you want to admit. If you're a drug addict and you're a criminal, we lack integrity. I didn't have any integrity at all. I was a liar, a thief, a cheater, a drug dealer, self-centered, self-seeking, and getting me clean and sober alone wasn't enough, because I'd been clean and sober in prison. And the day I paroled, I was getting high again. Went back, paroled, clean and sober. The day I got out, I was getting high again, because nothing had changed up here. I was still all of those behaviors that led me to prison. So in a therapeutic community with your peers, we're going to call you on those behaviors and then give you a chance to change them. It is absolutely fascinating. And most people kind of shy away from this because we tell people the truth. I believe that if you really want to help someone, you tell them the truth. If you want to help yourself, tell them what they want to hear. The reason why we are so effective and our success rate is through the roof. When I say through the roof, we've been open since 2015. My average student has been arrested 25.6 times. I have a couple people that have never been arrested. I have some that have been arrested over 50 times, but the aggregate total is 25.6. So it's the long-term drug addict coupled with that criminal component that's the frequent flyer, in and out, in and out, in and out. They've been clean and sober 1,000 times from Sunday. It didn't work because they didn't experience whole person change. When I got to Delancey Street, I got the opportunity to stay in the mode of practice long enough for me to learn to tell the truth impeccably, to learn to be honest, to learn to be truthful, to learn to do the right thing, to learn to be dependable, to learn to work hard, to learn to show up, to learn to not compromise, to learn to have integrity. And ladies and gentlemen, if you take nothing else from this conversation, take this to your pillow tonight. If you have integrity, nothing else matters. If you do not have integrity, nothing else matters. We focus so much on drugs as the problem. They're not the problem, because some of us are sitting in jail right now, calling home. Our parents have to take that call and pay for it. We're asking them for money. We're calling our girlfriend, asking them for money. Then we're hanging up and calling the other girlfriend, asking them for money. We're going back to our cell, and we can't wait until the afternoon for mail call. Durocher, last two, 86. Wondering which one of those girls is going to write. We're writing 2, 3, 4, 8 different women at the same time, blowing smoke up all their asses, right? Because we need that instant feel good. Some of us listening to this right now are doing that. So we're practicing the same behaviors in jail or in prison, and drugs have nothing to do with the problem. So I know sometimes it's hard to hear that because you're going, oh God, that stings. If it does, it's the truth. So at the Other Side Academy, we give people the opportunity to unwind those bad behaviors, learn some new behaviors. The other beautiful thing is when you get done at the Other Side Academy, every single one of my students, and John has been to our academy a couple times, but every single one of our students, the day they graduate from the academy, has a full-time job. Anywhere from $20 to $35 an hour. 100% of our graduates. I've got 100 different companies now that hire our graduates. Then you go across the street to the building I'm currently living in that's part of our property. You stay in graduate housing for a year. While you're in graduate housing, you're going through a financial literacy class. While you're going through that financial literacy class, you're required to save $5,000 during that year. And then depending on how long you stayed, we match it, either 50 cents on the dollar or 2 to 1. So if you were a student for 3 years and you stayed those 3 years and you stayed in graduate housing for a year and you say 5, we give you 10. Now you have 4 years of living in a structured environment, clean and sober, working in the social enterprises that we have for 4 years. Guess what you've just learned to do? You've just learned to live in a real community with real pressures for 4 years. You've saved money, we match it. We've called apartment complexes and property management companies all over the Salt Lake Valley. They will now rent to our graduates, whether they have to check the box or not. So that continuum of care on the back end is critical. But the reason why it works so well is our graduate success rate is so high that people who go get these jobs keep them and don't usually destroy them. Do people fall off sometimes? Absolutely. But by and large, our success rate is through the roof. If you stayed 2.5 years, you have a 76% chance of remaining DCE, drug-free, crime-free, and employed. Those who stay 3 years or longer, it's 85%. Those who stay 4 years in our facility, it's upwards of 95%. The farther you put your old lifestyle behind you, the more difficult it is to return to. If you get to a program and you only stay 1 day, can you change? Of course not. 2 days? Of course not. In most cases, 30 days, you can't change. 4 years later, you haven't just changed. You've completely rewired the way you think. You've got to practice every day, getting up on the social enterprises, going to work, going to break, coming back on time. You've learned how to work. You've learned how to be dependable. You've learned how to get along with people. You just learned the very skills that are going to be necessary for you to succeed in the real world. That's who we are at the Other Side Academy. We are so immensely successful that we have organizations from around the country coming to visit on a regular basis. Every 2 years, we actually do a world summit where people come from around the world. This past August, we had 80 people there from 13 countries coming to learn the model. The model because it's long, because it's hard, because it's structured, because we don't sugarcoat a damn thing. If you want things sugarcoated, go buy a donut. We're going to tell you the truth. And the truth will set you free. The truth heals. If we don't get told the truth, then how do we know what we need to change? So the model works incredibly well because of that. And because the people who are helping you are just like you. We are credible messengers. We don't have doctors that went to school for 10 years, got a degree, read it out of a book, and think they understand who I am. They have no clue who I am. They can't teach you a class up at the college that kind of gives you some idea of who Dave Durocher was on the street and in prison, what I put myself through. How can you connect with me heart to heart if you don't have any lived experience? That's the beauty of a TC. TC standing for Therapeutic Community. That is why we're so successful. So with that being said, I would love to open it up for questions.
Can we give Dave a gigantic round of applause? I told you he was the best of the best. When I grow up, I want to be like Dave Durocher. No, all kidding aside, that Other Side Academy is the best thing that I have ever seen in this nation. So we're going to open it up for questions and comments, something that Dave Durocher dropped in this room that you'd love for him to be able to expound on, or something that really resonated with you. We will open it up here in the room. Casa Grande, Gene Conservation Camp. And if you're watching Facebook Live, make sure you drop it into the chat, and Chad is monitoring the chat. Chad, I'm sorry, Dave, we're going to come over here to the Hope for Prisoners Billy Walters Center for Second Chances. If you will just step up, look at the camera over there. What's that question or comment that you have for the good doctor, Dave Durocher?
I don't have a question, but I haven't heard anybody speak whose story was so relatable. I've been through a lot of the same things, the helicopter hovering, the complete change in lifestyle. I'm 2 years away from crimes and everything, and I'm living a life now that I never thought I would live. And just hearing stuff like that brings back a lot of like feelings and memories that I wasn't expecting. But it's also really great to see somebody so far along in change and stuff like that. And I appreciate you speaking today, man.
Man, I appreciate that. Give him a hand for that, Dave. I'm going to give you a second if you want to respond to that.
I just want to tell them thank you for those comments and congratulations on your success. Stay on this path. Life is worth it.
There we go. Questions or comments you might have for Dave Durocher? Open it up for in Casa Grande right here in the headquarters. Chad, are we still on there? Where at? All right, we're going to go out to Gene Conservation Camp. Dave, before we field the question over there, those ladies out there, Gene Conservation Camp, well, you know what we're doing on Friday at about 5 o'clock in the evening? We're going to go out there to the camp and we're going to put on a big, gigantic barbecue for all the moms out there in Gene Camp. Step up, tell us your name. What is that question or comment you might have for Dave Durocher? We're trying to hear you. Tanya, is it on mute out there? It should be good now. Well, maybe not. Is there? We'll work on that right now. Is there any other questions or comments that we might have for Dave Durocher? Didn't you say you had a comment? Well, if you please stand up, and you got to look at the camera right there. We'll come back out to Gene in 1 second. All right. Look right over there and tell them.
It's me, Ashley, again. I have a question. So since he said that they don't use doctors and all this, so it's just pure therapy.
Yep.
And what about the interaction with the family? And we able to like contact our families and have family like?
That's a great question. I'll let Dr. Durocher answer that question.
Yes, absolutely. Everything in time. Once you've been here for 30 days, you can start writing home to those that raised you as long as the relationship is healthy. After 90 days, you can call home. After 1 year, they can come visit you. What we want to do with our students that are all adults is teach them to stand on their own 2 feet and stop relying on their family, because you will never meet a drug addict or someone who's incarcerated that has a healthy relationship with their family. All of those relationships are toxic, basically because the way we lived our lifestyle, and either we used with our family members or they enabled us almost into the grave. What the goal we want to accomplish is teaching people like me. I was in prison 4 times. My mom and dad drove to every single prison I was in. They could have died in a car accident between Southern California and Northern California. Do you think I cared? No. I asked them for money countless times. I had them doing mail outs for me for the drugs I was doing on the inside. I was asking them to send me quarterly packages. At the end of every phone call, I told them I loved them. The day I got out of prison, I went back to the same lifestyle. Should they be coming to see me? I had to learn to stand on my own 2 feet, push them aside for a second, and learn to not just say I love them, but show them. We become so family dependent that we don't know how to stand on our own 2 feet. So what we're going to ask you to do at the academy is to become an adult. Do we want you to reintegrate with your family? Absolutely. But we want you to do so when you become the 2.0 and the best version of yourself, so you can set firm boundaries with your family, because you go through the change process and they don't. It's liable to suck you right back into that same lifestyle. And for many of you listening, if you think about and you unpack the pattern in your life, you'll see what I just said to be true. It's just most people won't call it out this way.
Thank you so much for that. Can we give Dave a hand for that? Great question. We're going to go out to Nevada Department of Corrections, Gene Camp. I think your mic is working. Step up. Tell us your name and what's that question and comment you might have for Dave Durocher.
All right, Dave, how you doing? My name is Jay. Listen, everything you said tonight, I just want to let you know I appreciate it. You know, I can relate exactly to what you're talking about on several different things that you've mentioned tonight. My question to you is, you're based out of California. Is your program extensive to Nevada? Because, you know, we need something like that out here as well. And you're absolutely right. You know, drugs are not the problem. People are the problem. I am not a drug addict, and I have a lot of problems. So I just want to know, is there anything that you can do from your end to help people over here on this end?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing that now. Hopefully the message I'm sending resonates and gives you something to really think deeply about. If you guys take nothing else from this, please, as difficult as it is to hear the truth sometimes, it is so imperative to our growth to really sit back and go, wow, Dave owned all of his behaviors, and he really, I mean, I embrace them. I maximize who I once was. That will keep me from ever going back to it again, because I don't minimize any part of it. But the other part of your question is, what can I do to help? We have 2 facilities, one in Salt Lake and one in Denver. We scaled the model 5 years ago, May. In Denver, we've got 75 people living on property. So we have 2 very large facilities. We work, of the 130 students I have here in Salt Lake, about 20 of them are from out of state. If you're on parole or if you're on probation, it's hard to get you here because you have to do an interstate compact. Can it be done? Yes. Is it easy? No. Am I willing to help you? You bet. If you're not on paper, you can come straight here, or you can call us from Nevada if you're not in prison, and we'll interview you over the phone. And if we accept you, we will help get you here. So if you're on paper, it's hard to do because of the interstate compact. If you're not on paper, it's really easy to do. But if you want to make significant changes in your life, stop taking the easy way. Stop looking for the 30, 60, 90-day quick fix. Make an investment in your life. Go someplace that teaches you life skills, vocational skills, like John's now doing in the prisons with Hope for Prisoners. Go someplace that gives you the amount of time you're going to need to rewire how you think and learn new skills. If there's anything I can do to help anybody on this call, feel free to reach out to John. He can reach out to me. John has actually sent people to us before. So yes, we do work together. And again, if you're on paper, it's hard to do, but we can help make it happen. If you're not, we can get you here.
Excellent. Give him a hand for that, please. Dave, we got another question at the Hope for Prisoners Billy Walters Center for Second Chance. If you stand up, look right in that camera right there. What's that question or comment that you might have?
My name's Destiny Woodruff. I just saw someone had asked if you take women.
The answer
to
that is yes. Both of our facilities are co-ed.
So they do take women and they do take people from Nevada. Okay. And there was a question out at Southern Desert Correctional Facility, and that question is, what can we do to suggest to someone who would benefit from this treatment that they should seek it?
I'm not sure I understand, John.
I didn't know if I quite understand it, even hoping. I'm assuming that this is someone who's incarcerated, and it may be a loved one, a family member. Is there anything that they could say to someone to encourage them to reach out to seek treatment?
Yeah. So if I understand the question correctly, if there's somebody that they want to get help, propose the idea to them of the Other Side Academy. Have them go to our website. There are some incredible videos and testimonies of both me, my staff, our students, testimonies of the effectiveness of the organization and how their lives have changed. Send your loved one to the website so they can answer. They'll see all the Q&A questions, and it'll really help them get a better understanding of the organization so they can make a good decision based around whether or not this would be a good fit for them. And really, if the person is struggling with drug addiction and criminal behavior, it's a great fit. This is exactly what our organization is designed to do, is to help people with the issues that most of us are suffering from. But I also want to tell you guys this. The reason why I get to do what I do today, and I'm the executive director with the Other Side Academy, I get to travel the world visiting other organizations, I get to do presentations and speak all over the world, is because I owned every iota, every ounce of who I once was. I don't sugarcoat anything. I truly understand who I became. That gave me a foundation to change from. So please, if you go to your bed tonight, take it to your pillow and ask yourself, am I just a victim to my circumstances? There's no such thing. Bad things happen to all of us. And no matter what happens to me today, no matter what bad things happen to you, ultimately, you get to choose whether you use again. Nobody's going to make you do it. You get to choose. When you take full ownership of your life, everything bad that ever happened to me is my fault. Everything good that ever happened to me is my fault. That doesn't mean there aren't good people around me that help, but I put myself in a position to be on this call because John's one of my good friends. That's my fault. It's my fault that I went to prison. It's my fault that I went to jail. It's my fault that I stayed out. It's my fault that I got help. It's my fault that I'm here now. When you take ownership of every choice that you make and the consequences that are attached to those choices, you can make monumental personal change. When you make excuses, and my girlfriend cheated on me, my wife cheated on me, that job fired me, this happened, keep making excuses, you will live the rest of your life exactly where you're at. Or take ownership of why you're there, and you can get out and stay out.
Man, let's give Dave Durocher a gigantic round of applause. Man, you shake your head like Dave Durocher's a real deal, right? Dave, thank you so very, very much for joining us this evening, man. Looking forward to seeing you either in Salt Lake or the next time you come back out here to Las Vegas. Can we give it up for Dave Durocher one more time? That was really, really, really good.
John,
And as we, yeah, I'm sorry, Dave, you saying something? Go ahead.
I just want to tell everybody before we get off this call, everybody who's doing time, to make good choices while you're incarcerated. Change starts today where you're at. You get to start today, right now. Stop lying, stop manipulating, stop manipulating people. Seek out the treatment, seek out the programming, seek out Hope for Prisoners. Start making good choices in your life while you're incarcerated, and that will follow you when you leave.
Thank you so much, Dave. Give him a big hand for that. And for those of you who are out in the Southern Desert right now, that Hope for Prisoners 12A unit, thank you guys for joining us. And I'm going to see what we can do to get Dave Durocher to come out to that unit to have a conversation with you guys. As we sign off tonight, I want to just say hello and good night to all the women out at at Gene Camp. We're going to be out there for the big barbecue. I know the last time I was out there, somebody had suggested some carne asada. So we're going to make sure we're going to see you on Friday night. And we're going to have our dear friend Fox Rich is going to come out there and spend some time with you. We're going to watch the premiere of her movie, Time. So looking forward to seeing you on Friday night. Also want to drop another date out to you. Our next Hope for Prisoners graduation is going to be Friday, May the 17th at 4:30 p.m. I know we're going to have about 45 graduates who can be graduating that night. So please make sure you come out and hang out with us. For more information, please visit our website at hopeforprisoners.org. Good night to everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Dave, I love you, and we'll see you soon, brother.
You too, John. Yep.